inflation, taxes. These are all rational fears. And then we get into our irrational fears. And you and I see this all the time as clients that they park their money for retirement, they have it invested, and they haven't touched it. They're living on maybe Social Security, maybe pension, maybe rental income, maybe bank account savings, and they're not touching their retirement accounts. We've sat down with them. Hey, you can retire.
It's difficult to have a change in mindset. You spend your full working years saving for retirement, maybe making lifestyle sacrifices in order to achieve that goal. That when we get to that goal, there's kind of a what do I do now? And so for some individuals, it's just easier to say, well, I'm just going to keep working.
Welcome to America's Wealth Management Show. My name is Chris Rett, certified financial planner here, filling in for Dean Barber. Joining us today is Hayden Pudenz. Hayden, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on again, Chris. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So Hayden, we got an interesting topic today. 5 signs you're saving too much for retirement.
Yeah, this is going to be a great topic. I'm excited to get into it. We see a little bit of everything when it comes to retirement savings of, $500,000 up to, $10 million worth of assets. And I think we're going to get into the nitty gritty of how much do you actually need for retirement, but I'm excited.
Everybody, that you're so right, is everybody looks at it from a nest egg. I think this is a very powerful marketing tool or tactic to say your nest egg, here's how much, and it's meant to be, once I get there, it's enough, right? Everybody wants to know how much is enough, right? But the problem with that logic is, Hayden, it's different for everybody.
It varies.
Yeah. And you can still have the emotional security with less than what a lot of people think. I think a popular one is $1 million or $2 million or whatever the notion is these days. But really, everybody just wants to know that they have enough. But what we want to drive home in today's episode is that living with enough while you're saving to have enough still is not talking about necessarily having your cake and eating it too, but not sacrificing life in lieu of retirement.
Correct, right? We don't want to see a situation where we're sacrificing lifestyle today to set us up for retirement, but we get to retirement and we've actually saved more than what we actually need within retirement.
That's
right?
exactly right. That's exactly right. And so we got a good show here today. So Hayden, popular statistic out of Empower, retirement savings for Americans aged 65 to 74 has surged to approximately 1.148 million. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then we've got a video coming up from Money Guy Show. I think it's a very popular show. So we've got a reaction there when it comes to saving. But when we look at it, is that things that we want to address today, Hayden, is that, again, fearful. I think it's rooted in fear of having enough, right? Yep. Running out of money is, I think I saw a stat, earlier that we had on a show, is that people are more fearful of running out of money than actually dying.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute point. A lot of people, they don't want to be a burden on the next generation, or they don't want to live a life that they aren't able to accomplish all their wants and wishes. And that's really where financial planning comes into play, and being the most important thing is when it comes to, have $1 million saved at retirement or have $2 million saved at retirement. To your point, Chris, it's different for everybody. We have, clients that don't require a lot of money within retirement, and then that fulfills their lifestyle, where we have other people, they want to take vacations overseas and they want to do, this lavish lifestyle. Those two lifestyles are going to require different savings levels.
You're exactly right. And so, when we look at it, is that retirement savings, similar to a lot of things, is we've been conditioned subconsciously as more is better, right? And in instance, we're not saying here that more isn't better, but we are saying is that, hey, if you're sacrificing along the way to get to more, is more actually better? Right.
Yeah.
And so we'll get into that. And so with that, Hayden, is that we want to talk about, the five signs that somebody might be over saving for retirement. And so we'll get into those right now. Is that, sign one is you don't really know any better, or you haven't put together a plan. Sign two is fear. Right. Sign three is greed, the opposite of fear. Sign four is going to be an improper asset or tax allocation. And then sign five is going to be missing work, life balance is out of whack, or putting off your dreams. And then a bonus to that, perhaps maybe a sixth sign, is leaving an unplanned legacy.
Yeah.
So Hayden, let's get into it. Is that sign one, you don't know any better, or you haven't put a plan together. You and I are big planners, right?
Exactly.
Modern Wealth strives on proactive financial planning first. So, looking at this is that how can somebody not know any better, or what can they do is if they're looking at it is that, hey, how can they start to put a plan together for the amount that they need to save for retirement, avoiding that over saving?
It's difficult when you don't have a great financial planning software like we utilize here at Modern Wealth. But when it comes to mapping out retirement, understanding what you want to accomplish, how much do we want to spend on a basic monthly budget, for gas, utilities, items like that. But what else do we want to accomplish? Do we need new vehicles? Do we want to relocate to be closer to the kids and the grandkids? What does our lifestyle look like is going to impact how much we need to save throughout our working years. And that's where it's really difficult to navigate that retirement phase without a financial plan, because there's just so many unknown variables out there that it's just difficult to do.
Yeah, and I think when you don't have a plan, the easy answer, and I see this a lot of times in maybe like a scarcity mindset or an engineer type, somebody that's working a lot of numbers, is that they're really good at restraint, they're really good at discipline, they're really good at saving, but they don't know what they're saving towards.
Right. Yeah. And it's really easy to oversave for retirement when you don't know what the overall goal is. Yeah. Right. It's just as simple as I'm going to contribute, 20%, let's just pick a number, to my 401k. Well, the financial plan could come back and say we only need to contribute 5%. And so just by doing a basic, just looking numbers up online, it's really easy to get that mixed up.
Yeah. So I think the easy answer here, Hayden, is somebody's like, I'm just maxing out all my retirement accounts, maxing out my 401k, maxing out my Roth. Corey and I did one on backdoor Roth conversions and mega backdoor. Maybe you listen to that. Maybe you're able to implement some of that. And you're just saying, hey, I'm going to do this until I retire, and then I'm going to live on whatever I have. That would be the first sign of saying, hey, I might be, maybe you haven't, but over saving to retirement is you haven't put a plan together. You put a budget together.
Yeah.
You know how much you're spending. You know how much income you have coming in. You know how much you're saving towards. But to your point, you don't know what you're saving toward. You don't know what that plan looks like. You don't know what that actual number is that you're working towards to then live off of. What are your sources of income going to be in retirement? You just don't know.
Correct.
So you're guessing, and that number could be, we talk about that could be over saving. That could also just as easily be under saving.
Correct. Because Chris, how many times have you sat down with a newer client of ours that they come in and the number one priority for them is, the job is just wearing me down. I want to retire, but I'm pretty adamant that I don't have the finances to retire.
Yeah.
And then we put together a financial plan for the individuals, and it comes back and maybe it says, hey, you can retire next year. And just the light bulb in their mind of, I thought I didn't have enough to, I can retire next year, it's more common than you'd probably think.
Oh, Hayden, I would say that's probably the most common reaction I get, is that somebody comes to us and you ask them, and it really what it comes down to, and we'll get that in the Money Guide show, is that the freedom, right? Is that really what somebody sits down and they're working, is that all they want to know is they can retire if they want to. Doesn't mean they're necessarily going to go out and do that. A lot of people find purpose in what they do. A lot of people find that it's good to get out of the house and interact with people. Some people just enjoy what they do. I would consider us in that boat as well, is that you enjoy what you do and who you're doing it with. And so it's not saying that you need to retire. A lot of people just come to us and they're sitting and they're saying, I just want to know that I can.
Absolutely.
And so to your point is that I would say that is very, very common, is somebody comes to us and they're stressed. They're stressed that they feel like they're going to need to work another 5 to 10 years. And that just isn't always the case.
Correct.
Right? Is that you sit down and you say, okay, let's build out this plan. And you find, to your point, more often than not, somebody coming to us has oversaved.
Yeah. Totally agree. And the other thing is, we see individuals that come to us that have never put together a financial plan before, that they've just been focusing on saving for retirement, that they haven't thought through what retirement looks like, right? I've had several conversations with newer clients of ours of, what do we want to accomplish in retirement? What are your goals? And they've just been in this mindset where we're saving away from retirement that we actually haven't put any thought into what retirement looks like.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. So if you're listening to this, you're saying, okay, Chris, Hayden, that sounds great. Maybe I find myself in that boat. What do I do? Well, if you're listening to this, is never too early. But I would say if you're in that 45 to 55 age gap, is that look at what is it you want to look at when you retire? What do you want your lifestyle to be? And then reverse engineer back. And that's really where we're helpful, is that coming to a professional like ourselves, but also a professional and saying, hey, I might be in that 45 to 55 age range, and I'm looking at retiring in the next 5 to 15 years. What do I need to do today to make sure that I, one, can retire, but two, don't over save and then maybe underlive in that meantime? Is that a perfect retirement plan, Hayden, in my opinion, and you may have a different one in my opinion, is it allows you to live today, be present in today, but also save towards a future date. And that should go for retirement too, is that, hey, when you go to retire, it is such a transitional phase that when you're going to retirement, if you've put in the work, you know, we have our saying is that enjoy today with the confidence of tomorrow. That should apply to a pre-retiree as well as a retiree to say, hey, I'm confident I'm going to be able to live how I want tomorrow, but I'm also going to enjoy and be present in the today.
Correct. And that's the great benefit of the financial plan is it allows us to alleviate some fear, right? Because at the end of the day, when it comes to retirement, it's a scary point in life. We're taking a jump from, you know, a consistent income at work to now we're out on our own. Maybe we need to find new hobbies or new items to fill our time. It's a scary time. And so having that financial plan that really can provide a consistent, easy feeling towards retirement is extremely helpful.
Well, and you went there, Hayden. So let's naturally go to sign number 2 is fear, right? Is fear of that we're potentially over saving. Is that, okay, say you've put together a plan. You're going to retire at, you know, I'm going to make up an age here, 62. You know, you've got a Social Security strategy, you've got a distribution strategy, you've got your allocation set up, all of that. And you and I recently did an episode on rebalancing, right? And then 62 is going to retire. 62 comes and goes. 63 comes and goes. 60, you're approaching 64. Your plan was to retire at 62. You haven't retired. Why?
Fear is obviously the basic answer, but why are we scared? I think it's a handful of different things, right? It could be...
Well, let me interrupt you. There's no shortage of things to be afraid of, right? As we're looking at market volatility, we're looking at geopolitical events, we're looking at inflation, right? Healthcare costs. There's no shortage of things to be worried or fearful of.
Correct. Right? And the example you brought up is an individual retiring at 62. We have private healthcare costs to associate with that as well. And
certainly, so,
you know, a lot of individuals we meet with that are scared to pull trigger on retirement or do have that fear, even though we have the financial plan put together, it is, well, you know, we've got a war going on in the Middle East, and how is that going to directly impact inflation? Are we accounting for enough inflation? Is our healthcare costs built in high enough? I don't know. Maybe we do want to spend an extra $1,000 in retirement. It's this uncertainty or fear around things that are out of our control that just provide us to work longer than what we actually need to.
Yeah, Hayden, you're exactly right. Is that, in my opinion, there's 2 types of fear, right? Is that, and I'm not a psychologist, but there's rational fear. Again, some of the things we talked about earlier, market conditions, you know, inflation, taxes. These are all rational fears. And then we get into our irrational fears, right? And you and I see this all the time as clients that, you know, they've parked their money for retirement, they have it invested, and they haven't touched it. They're living on maybe Social Security, maybe pension, maybe rental income, maybe bank account savings, and they're not touching their retirement accounts. And that would be more the irrational fear.
Correct.
Right? Is that we've sat down with them, hey, you can retire. Your probability of success is in the mid to high 90s. You can spend more than you want. You can, you know, retire sooner. You can be more conservative. You can be more generous on gifting, more generous on expenses, right? And they just don't do that. that would fall more into that irrational. You've set up a retirement age at 62 or 65 and you keep working. That then goes to the irrational side, is that there is, almost, it becomes a clinical sense, is that it almost is that you're your own worst enemy at that point.
Exactly. And a lot of that, Chris, comes from it's difficult to have a change in mindset, right? You spend your full working years saving for retirement, maybe making lifestyle sacrifices. We obviously don't want that to be the case, but maybe there are lifestyle sacrifices along the way in order to achieve that goal. That when we get to that goal, there's kind of a what do I do now, right? Yeah. It's extremely difficult to change the spending mindset that you've had for the last 30 years. And so for some individuals, it's just easier to say, well, I'm just going to keep working.
It is. Yeah. And that's where we come into hand, is that in essence, we are somewhat financial psychologists, is that for that person listening, if you find yourself in that boat and you do want to retire or you haven't done the legwork, is that, reach out and get some help, because I sit down with clients, and I had a client a couple years ago, and he wanted to retire at 65. That's when he wanted to retire, and his job was stressful enough. And he ended up working until he was 70.
Wow.
And 70 was key because he wanted to delay Social Security. And when he delayed Social Security, him and his wife filed at age 70. And that was always a milestone for him. And we had that in the plan anyway, so that wasn't going to be a deal breaker. But he retired at 70. He'd done all the legwork. He could have retired at 65. And he came in at 71, and we had a review. And this was at the time when RMDs were 72, and we're getting ready to plan for his RMDs when they started at 72, or I guess, they are 72. But, and he looks at me and he's like, I worked about 5 years too long, and in that time it was the stress and it was the health that he, prolonged, is that he came in, he had time to work out. He had time to, took the family on vacations multiple times a year, right? They went all across the country, and, he looked at me and it was a realization that we both knew, but he had worked about 5 years too long. And I know we have that later on down as well, but it really was for him, an engineer type, is that just that fear-based, is that he just, no amount of math was going to show him it was going to work. Unfortunately, hindsight is always 20/20 for us, Hayden, is that it took 1 year of him being retired to say, I should have done this sooner. And
those are the cases that are the hardest to see as financial advisors, because there's only so much we can do of presenting the information in a manner that allows individuals to make an educated decision without hopefully relying on emotions like that. But being in the business long enough, you do know the emotional side of things is a factor for everybody. Yeah. And so that's where, once again, the financial plan is just ridiculously important. I feel like we're beating a dead horse here when it comes to the financial plan.
But it's so crucial. It just helps people from themselves a lot of times.
Absolutely. Because we've seen it far too many times of that specific case where I worked too long, and what was the benefit? I had 6 years there where I could have been spending time with the kids and the grandkids and doing these vacations when I'm in my probably the best health there, kind of in that 65 to 70 range of retirement, where if we continue to work during that phase, we've seen those nightmare scenarios of individuals that have retired for 3 years and God forbid something happens and they pass away and they didn't get to experience the retirement they were hoping for.
And you see this all the time, is on the flip side of that too, is I have overthinkers when it comes to retirement that you work through and you're going, okay, and they're going to retire and they're like, Chris, I trust you, but I am terrified of retirement. We've gone through the plan, we've gone through the cash flows, we've gone through the distribution order, we've gone through the allocation, and they are fine and they are terrified. And then they come in for maybe their first review or their second review afterwards, and they say, and it's usually the same thing again. If they found their niche in retirement and they're doing what they want to do, retirement is so underrated, right? Is that sometimes we get in this rut. And we're used to this rut where, hey, I'm worried about work, and it's just the thought of that worry is ever present. What would you focus on outside of that? And when you remove that, it's almost instantaneous, is that, hey, trust the process. First step is do the legwork, but then trust the process. Is that more often than not, that first review comes in. These markets certainly help, but it's like, hey, here was our target for investment. Maybe we've overachieved that. And the amount that you withdrawn, we've been able, again, it's not going to be that every year, but we've been able to sustain that and even add. And just watching the relief as they see it in action is one of the joys of this job, is then taking somebody from that and really graduating them to that retirement to say, hey, I get it. I understand your fears, but here's how, as the financial advisor, we're going to work through them. And then on the other side of it, you got to trust the process, is that you come back in, and just the joy of that, the relief they have when it comes to, okay, I know I've done the legwork, but now I'm enjoying that retirement.
That's what we do it for at the end of the day, right? Is we want to be in positions where we're able to help individuals diversify or spend the assets that they've saved and accomplish all their wants and wishes in life. And so it's very rare that we have an individual that retired that comes in a year later and says, man, I wish I would have worked another year longer. Very rare that happens, right? Every once in a while, we've got a couple of clients that they just got to be going. Maybe they pick up a part-time job at a golf course, get some free golf along the way, something like that.
Certainly.
But more likely than not, you're not going to regret the decision of retiring, as long as you've done the work in the front hand of building a financial plan.
You got it. So let's move on to number 3. So the exact opposite of fear is going to be that greed, right? Yeah. You've got that client that you and I talked about before the show, is you've got, a couple clients, and we all have clients or know somebody that it's, Hayden, it's never enough. Not that you're fearful of it running out, but you've got that client that no amount of money, they look up at their bank account and they're, they're up, 10, 20% and, over a certain period of time, and they come in, they're, you know what I mean? It's just never enough. That greed side is that they just enjoy the dollar increasing over time. What would you say to somebody like that? Or what have you said to somebody like that it's like, okay, they enjoy that and they're working towards that and they're stressing themselves out. Hey, you're over saving.
Yeah, I think this one's a little bit difficult, Chris, because my first question always is, what's the point?
Yeah.
What are we needing this money to grow to for the goal, right?
Yeah.
If we've got a goal to leave a very sizable legacy to kids or to grandkids, that I would consider that to be within the financial plan. And then maybe we need the assets to grow a little bit more than what they're at today. But a majority of the time, it's just individuals that want more assets in the account, but they don't have a designated individual or item that we want to spend money on. So in that situation, we're taking more risk within the portfolio that's already covered to achieve our goals. So at that point, it feels like we're throwing a pass on first and goal when we're up a touchdown under 2 minutes, no timeouts. Just kneel the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head. Is like, what's the point? Is that, for somebody like that, if you enjoy watching it grow, hey, we're not going to tell you not to. Assuming the plan is taken care of. But what we are going to say is make sure we're enjoying life in the meantime.
Yeah.
Is that, to your point, is what's it all worth? Is I think we all say is that, there's not a U-Haul at the funeral, right? You can't take it with you, So I think that's where this popular die with zero philosophy has come around, is that, hey, you build it up, and then when you pass away, if done right, you can pass away with zero, and then you've redistributed. I think Andrew Carnegie was a steel magnate back in the early, late 1800s, early 1900s, built up massive wealth. One of the richest, if not at the time, the richest person, second richest next to Rockefeller. And when you see in his last 10, 20 years of life, his last phase, his fourth quarter, started gifting it all away. Is that's where we look at, is that greed side, is that, hey, we've seen that it's fun to a certain extent, but after a while, it's just never enough. It's never gonna be enough. Is that the idea is that, yes, you can grow and watch it, and that's okay too, but make sure you have a plan for it still. And to your point, if it's, you want to leave a massive legacy, if, you went to school and you want to have a building named after you, or you want to, set up a foundation.
That's one thing.
Yeah, exactly. But just make sure you have a plan, because that greed will never be satiated. That greed will never be satisfied. That number that you see, if it's 2 million, it's going to be 3 million. If it's 3 million, it's 5 million. If it's 5 million, it's 10 million. The goalposts are always going to move. Just make sure you're living your life in that meantime.
As long as you have a reasonable goal to match what the portfolio needs to achieve, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is when we're taking too much risk or being too aggressive when it's not needed. You know, I'm thinking of individuals that maybe are single, they don't have any kids, there's no real legacy goals, maybe they're not spending a ton either. What is the overall intention? Is it to leave it behind to your institution and have a building named after you? If the answer is I don't have an intention for these dollars and I don't have a particular care of where they go after I pass away, then once again, my question back to them is, what's the point of taking the risk?
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Is that I have a client, it reminds me of a story. I have a client like that. And we actually, it's funny enough, we have to sit down in reviews, and a majority of the review, we're obviously talking about the financials and the market and what's going on. But a majority of the review is, you know, how are we going to spend this money? He's a single guy, you know, no kids, not married. And it is going to be like, how are we using these dollars appropriately for you and whatever you want to do, right? If there's a dog shelter you want to go volunteer at or contribute to, or you know, ride around with the police or you know, fire department, or contribute to those, is that how can we set up these dollars that you've worked hard for, you've diversified, you've saved right, you've invested right? How do we work these for you to make sure you get enjoyment out of it? You're exactly right.
Because to your point, Chris, a lot of the individuals that we see fall into this greed category, they're typically making lifestyle sacrifices in order to hit their long-term goal, right? That's it. And so you have that conversation of, hey, we need to spend this amount of money, or let's find an item to spend $50,000 on. A lot of them are, I don't have an item. I'm taken care of at home. Yeah. I am good. And then once again, it falls back to the original point is, what's the point of taking the risk we're taking? Humans
are inherently habitual. So you're exactly right. Is that how do we sometimes, retirement is such a game changer for so many different reasons, but how do we, in essence, unlearn some of the habits that we've learned along the way? But to your point is that a lot of times, you know, if the market takes a downturn, those that are prudent are going to inherently spend less, right? Those during up markets, they're going to inherently spend a little bit more. That's prudent philosophy. But when we're looking at it is just, you know, it's okay to be greedy. It's okay to want that high balance in that retirement account, but just don't sacrifice living along the way to achieve that, right? Is because you're going to get to the end of it. And we've done episodes on this before of 5 regrets that people have, is that just make sure you're living your life in the meantime is going to be our only ask. And if you need help for that, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help on that side too. But, you know, moving on to our fourth one, Hayden, is that wouldn't be modern wealth management if we weren't talking about tax savings, right? Is that
absolutely
saving too much, and it's going to go back to the planning, but saving too much, but now to a tax deferred bucket, right? Mm-hmm. Is that how often, Hayden, I know I see it, how often do you see somebody coming to us and, you know, a majority of their wealth is in their 401k or their IRA?
I don't want to put a percentage to it, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
That's right. And so if you're listening to this, you're like, hey, we raise the hand.
That's
Taylor
me.
Swift, the problem is me. You're okay. You're in good company.
Exactly.
We see it a lot. That's exactly right. Is that tax deferred anonymous, right? Is that you are not alone. Is this is okay. This is a very common issue. The thing we want to do is make sure if you are oversaving, making sure you're at least oversaving tax efficiently, right?
Correct. Well, and tax efficiently, and then also, what is our target retirement age, right? Let's say we're looking to retire at 59 or 60, or even before that, let's call it 55. Well, we know we can't access those tax deferred accounts penalty free, but until 59 and a half. Obviously, there's some rules around the 401k that we can get around there. But when it comes to saving pre-Medicare, we need to have some flexibility in a brokerage account as well.
We do. Yeah, we do. And we'll get to the Money Guy show and the FIRE movement. So if you're listening to this and you consider yourself part of the FIRE movement, the financially independent retire early, is, you know, making sure you understand the tax code and the tax rules as you're saving, you know, can help you into achieving your goals. You're exactly right, Hayden. So we've kind of touched on this one, and we'll put a bow on it. Assign number 5 is missing work or life balance out of a whack, putting off your dreams for retirement. Is that, you know, trading the go-go years for that extra accumulation or that extra 10% in the market returns. That's, you know, that's going to be a no-no, right? Is that you only get your health once. Right.
Correct.
And that's where we want to make sure is that, you know, save appropriately, but, you know, make sure you're living in the meantime. I cannot stress this enough. How many times, I just had a review with a lovely married couple. They were in their mid 70s, and ironically, a couple back surgeries for each of them over the last couple years, and they saved enough. Their balance on their account keeps growing, and they can't go anywhere, Hayden.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Is that they've saved, they've invested, they've distributed, and now their account just keeps growing, and they cannot use that money to travel. They would love to travel. They love going on cruises, but they just can't go anywhere.
They can't do it.
Right?
Yeah.
In essence, they oversaved. Right.
Correct.
And so they have traveled in the meantime, but the idea is to look at that and learn to say, hey, if you are doing, oversaving, make sure we're utilizing our health, because once the health starts to go, it comes without warning, right? It's not like, hey, at 75, you're not going to want to travel. Great. I've got 10 or 15 or 20 years until then. I'll make sure it comes without warning. You don't know when it's going to happen. So as advisors, we have to stress is that utilize your health. If you're saving, your health is your wealth, not the value in the account, right? It's your health is your wealth.
Absolutely, Chris. And this is one of the saddest things of being a financial advisor, is having those conversations where you have an individual that comes in and you've been talking about retirement, and they say, I just want to work a couple more years longer. I've got this. I just want a little bit more in that account. And then to your point, we get to retirement and there's health concerns in the way. Maybe there's knee replacements, hip replacements, back surgery that keeps us home and keeps us away from spending on the items that we wanted to. And now we're in a situation where we're not achieving our goals and we've saved too much. And that's, in my opinion, worst case scenario.
That's worst case scenario. You're exactly right. And so, Hayden, we'll go into the bonus category, leaving an unplanned legacy. We highlighted this earlier, is that, hey, to the greedy person out there listening to this, is that, again, just make sure you have a plan, because if you don't, you're going to end life with a big value in your bank account, and it's going to go to a next generation, or it's going to go to a foundation, or it's going to go wherever, who's not going to have any issues spending your money. Right?
Absolutely.
Right. And so that's where we look at, is having that plan in place to say, okay, how can I utilize this? Otherwise, it is going to go unplanned to a legacy. Either you're planning for that legacy or you're unplanning that legacy. It's going to go somewhere. Make sure you have a plan in place.
Absolutely, Chris. And just to even take that one step further, is even if you have a legacy and plan, start having those conversations with the individuals that you're planning on leaving those assets behind to,
Yeah.
right? We've seen so many times of individuals, they leave behind assets to the kids, the grandkids, or nieces and nephews, and there hasn't been those financial discussions that results in those assets being spent down pretty quickly.
Yeah. And how many times I have clients in their 80s and their 90s, and they're starting to gift money to their kids, and their kids are like, hey, I'm retired on my own. Thanks.
Yeah,
but
I'm all right.
But I could have used this 30 years ago when I needed a new roof. You know what I mean? Is that's where the plan in place of, like, a legacy can be while you're alive too. And just remember that it's a lot more fun to give it while you're alive, with warm hands we talk about, than with cold hands. So
I absolutely agree with that, Chris.
all right, Hayden. So looking at that, let's move along to the Money Guy show, and what they have to say about oversaving.
If you are a person that's part of the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, is 25% what we normally talk about good enough? And the answer is no. Our research consistently shows that you're going to have a savings rate around 35 to 40%. If your income is less than $100,000, it might even be well beyond that. And so you have to get serious. You have to be very disciplined with your life to have such an ambitious goal. And I think it also ties into, does the goal line up with what you're going to live your life? Because this is something I do worry about, where you're living on probably only 20 to 30% of what you make. Just make sure when you actually do go across that threshold and retire, and now you don't have to work anymore, you have time to fill. Make sure that you truly can stay in the lifestyle that you built for yourselves, that's sustainable by your assets.
So, Hayden, different approach.
Yeah.
Different message, but I think the important context here is that they're speaking specifically to the FIRE movement, which is, again, that financially independent, retire early, looking to retire really within that 45 to 55 year age gap. I think, and I like the Money Guy show. I think they produce good content. I think when you're speaking to those individuals, I think they're spot on. Is that target seems to be about right. However, those that are looking to retire in that 55 to 65, that would probably be overspending.
Oversaving.
Yeah, oversaving. Thank you. Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah. The only thing I would disagree with them on is just the general principle, right? When it comes to financial planning, it could be 20%, it could be 28%.
Yeah.
It all depends on, what retirement looks like for you. So I wouldn't watch that video and be like, I need to change my spending rate to 25% just because I'm looking to retire pre-50.
Yeah.
That's where a financial plan comes into place, right? I had a couple I met with, within the last few weeks that we are looking to retire at the age of 50. And their saving rate isn't exactly 25%. It's a little bit different because, maybe they want to do a little part-time work for those 10, 15 years from 50 to 65. There's multiple of other avenues to go down.
Yeah.
But I think the general principle that they're talking about is accurate.
That's exactly right. And I think, whether it's us or them or anybody, is that always listen to it with a grain of salt. Always reach out and make sure that it is plan specific to you.
Exactly.
Spot on. Okay, Hayden, with the time we have left, let's go through our don't do's. And I think we've done a great job of crossing these out as we went along. But, don't do number one, avoid saving without a target. We hit that early on, is that when you're over saving, is that we want to have some bit of a target. And if it's okay if that target moves here and there, but you want to be aiming for a target and working towards that target.
Absolutely.
Okay. Number two, avoiding the tax consequences of overaccumulation. I mean, we talked about this earlier, is oversaving, but oversaving to a tax deferred bucket, right?
Correct.
Not knowing the tax rules, not knowing how your tax diversification can set you up for efficiencies in retirement. If you're going to oversave, make sure you're doing it tax efficiently.
Right. We never want to be in a situation where those required minimum distributions or RMDs are becoming so large that we're not spending those dollars. So to your point, tax efficiency is important.
And don't do number three. Don't, avoid letting fear dictate your timeline. Look, like we talked about, is there's tons of things to be fearful of, especially when it comes to money. I mean, geopolitical, some of the conflicts that are happening in the war, that's going to always add anxiety, right? But inflation, market volatility, deflation of the dollar, right? These are all scary, scary topics, right? But if you've done the plan and you've run the illustrations and you can do the things you want despite those, you should have a lot of confidence in your plan. Don't let fear dictate your timeline.
Because, Chris, to your point, fear and greed are always going to be emotions that are at play when it comes close to retirement or even in your accumulation years. And so it's always going to be an emotion we need to factor. And as financial advisors, we always have to work around those emotions. But it's very key and important to not let those emotions drive the decisions that you're making.
Spot on, Hayden. Well, Hayden, any save rounds that we didn't cover already?
I don't think so, Chris. This was a great show. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Hayden, thanks for joining us today, and thanks for listening to America's Wealth Management Show. We'll see you next time.
The views expressed represent the opinion of Modern Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The information provided is for educational and illustrative purposes only and does not constitute individualized investment, tax, or legal advice. Actual results may vary, and investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. Modern Wealth Management does not accept any liability for the use of the information discussed. Please consult with a qualified financial, legal, or tax professional prior to taking any action.